Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Gibbon episode 20. This is a bit of a strange podcast because it actually was taken from a YouTube live with Alex of the Hunter Gatherer Cooking channel. Now, he came up to Scotland to basically see how walked up grouse was carried out and potentially go out to stalk a stag. So how did this all come about? Well, I've known Alex for a few years and we've met and chatted online. Met him at the stalking show this year and had a good chat with him and stuff like that. And he's on his journey to, as well as showing ethical cooking and barbecuing and everything like that, he wanted to learn to deer stalk. Now, he's been getting a lot of assistance from a guy called Matt of Grosvenor Larder down in the southwest. But I opened this door to him and said, look, there's an opportunity for you to come to Scotland, see walked up grouse on the glorious 12th. Potentially then we will go out on the next day and we will look for a stag. And if you're up for it, you potentially get to harvest that stag. So he sort of jumped on board because he was actually coming to Scotland to do a visit to a salmon fishery. And we managed to tie the whole thing together. So a brief overview of the weekend was that Alex was going to drive up from the southwest. He stopped off to see his sister in Manchester, and then he arrived at the hostel on the Friday night, the 11th of August. I drove down the next morning, which was the 12th, met him. We had some porridge, a bit of a natter, and we drove off to meet Tom, who is the owner of the sporting rights and sort of the head keeper stroke head stalker of the land. Now, all of this was being filmed and recorded because Alex was kind of documenting everything for his YouTube channel, which the videos will come out and you'll get to see everything that actually happened on those days. But the weather was not too bad that morning, but it deteriorated rapidly. So we ended up getting up to the hill, met the guests, took them out onto the hill, and the weather was pretty awful. You really couldn't see a lot. It was wet and miserable. However, we had a fantastic day on the hill with the grouse. Now, the next day was completely different, and you really couldn't have asked for better weather. So we went through the whole process of getting Alex set up on a rifle, and then we went for the stalk. Now, the podcast, basically, that the recording that you're about to listen to is kind of our debrief 2 weeks later.
So we are nearly 2 weeks to the hour, aren't we, Pete? From when I pulled the trigger up in Scotland with you in that beautiful, beautiful setting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Almost 2 weeks to the hour exactly to when you took your first Scottish red stag.
How is Nigel?
Well, he's now all vac packed and he's still chilling at the moment in the fridge.
Yeah, for anyone who's missed that, I decided to name the deer Nigel as I pulled him hill and broke my ankle, which is still sore, by the way.
Ah, well, that's just a memory you've got from being in Scotland.
I am convinced that it's a foot for a foot.
Yeah, he was just telling you that being a three-legged deer, he needed to just say that's how it is. But yeah, obviously he's got four legs at the end of the day, so he was still three-wheel drive, and you were only one-wheel drive.
Yeah, that's true. Just so you know, and so anyone else knows, I am in the process still, believe it or not, of all the footage off my phone onto my laptop. But because the laptop's so old, it takes forever. There's nearly 500 individual video clips, and it's just taken ages. But I told you the other day, I have looked at them. It'll be quite good. It'll be pretty special. But the plan is I'm going to do one big video, which will encompass the whole weekend. So the grouse, the stag, the whiskey, and then the salmon. And then I'm going to break up the individual videos for people who just want to watch those bits, basically. So
That's
That's
cool.
the plan. And then once I get stuck into it, I won't stop. I won't stop the editing. So I'll get that done as soon as I can, really.
Yeah. Well, I can assume. I was assuming there was a lot of footage because literally you probably had the camera rolling for the whole of the grouse day, even though the weather was absolutely atrocious. And then
Do you
you,
know what though? That footage has come out surprisingly well. And at times, I think it's just because of like the camera and stuff, it doesn't look that bad. And I kind of want to say, I know it doesn't look that bad, but it really was.
yeah, that's always the thing, isn't it? Some of the photos that came out, they absolutely look like it. Like people be like, "What sort of weather were you talking about?" But there are some photos that come out that, yeah, it's absolutely dreadful.
The wind, it was the wind for me. I didn't whine about it at the time, but I started to get like a really bad earache.
Right.
Um, and that was when I was putting my hood up and that because the wind was just shooting straight into my brain at that point.
I'm just going to say now, if anybody sees me jiggling about and moving, I've got a very needy spaniel that decided that I'm going live. It wants to go live too.
I got one out there trying to get in at the moment with the door shut.
Yeah, well, the other two are completely chill, but this one has decided now. It's like there's somebody talking. I need all your attention.
Yeah, it's always the way. Um, so yeah, mate, I'm buzzing, and I can't thank you and Tom enough for making the whole thing happen. Really, it wouldn't have happened without his generosity and your patience and kindness. Really, it was a brilliant 2 days up on that hill.
No,
and,
absolutely. Yeah.
and one which I'll never forget. But hopefully, we'll be reminded about soon because of that chap I met. And yeah, hopefully, we're going to be coming up again soon at some point.
Yeah, well, once we get this box of venison sorted out and sent down to you, that will be down, and then you can actually you can take the rewards of the stalk and actually get that on the barbecue and do some meals with it. Share it with the
So,
family.
what is it you're actually sending down?
So the plan is to put together a box of steaks. I've got some dice in there for you. I've done a mini. Literally, the small leg has turned into a mini rolled, like a roasting joint type of thing. So there's all sorts of fun and stuff there. You'll also get in that box. It might be another box separately that won't be frozen. You'll get your set of antlers as
Nice,
well,
oh, amazing.
and there's a few other bits to come down. So basically, you are getting a
Did
box of
did you
them.
boil the head then?
I haven't boiled the head yet. As I said, he's still chilling in the fridge. I've got
Ah,
3
okay.
row to do and a few other bits. It's just it's been manic. I was out on the hill on Friday again. We took another client out to get a stag there.
Oh,
So
look, class.
yeah, 14-mile trek all the way up around the top, 1,500 vertical meters climbed. No stags up there. They weren't playing ball.
Same ground as the one I was on, or a different ground?
We were different ground. We were over. We could see
Right.
your hill. So when we looked across to the other estate into
Yeah.
Clover down the big valley. So I was on the other side in the big corries there. So we went all the way straight up one of the erects there, walked around the top, saw about 300 to 400 stags out on another estate. We couldn't get anywhere near.
Wow. What, all grouped together?
All grouped together, just a huge herd, stags and hinds just moving, and they were happy. And then literally back on the hill where you shot yours, the next high ridge over, there was probably another 300, 400 sat on top of that. They were up there because the weather was warm, mild. It had a bit of moisture in the air, so the midges were out. Literally every time we stopped, it was like a swarm of midges around you, and you just wanted to keep going. So
I
we tried to
was,
say,
but by the end, I was bitten to death. But not ironically, not from the hills. That was when I was further up, when I was staying over just before I went to go see the salmon stuff.
I
But
did
yeah,
say
they ate
not
me
too
alive.
bad. Yeah, but if you go on the west coast, it's even worse. It's like having a face mask of midges at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So it's just one of those things at the moment because it is so mild and the temperatures are up. They are about. The deer know this, so the deer go and spend their times in the breeze on top of the ridge where the wind keeps them away.
yeah.
And
No,
especially while the antlers are obviously still all velvety and they've got their fluff on them, the stags seem to get affected more than the hinds. So they don't like midges as much as we don't like midges at this time of year.
Yeah, well, I bloody hate them. They seem to target me at the best of time.
It's your soft southern skin they like, and that all that
Ooh.
lovely barbecue food.
Oh, that's fighting talk. Speaking of
It's all right.
barbecue,
I'm a southerner anyway, so it's no problem. But I live north of the border now.
I got some lovely beef ribs for later that have been sous vide for 14 hours. I'm just just waiting to cook them at some point, but it stopped raining now, thank God.
Yeah, the weather's gone a bit back to very autumnal now, hasn't it? Really.
It's funny though, like you compare it to the weather up on the hill and everything else seems like nothing.
Yeah, I totally. It was it's bizarre because that day we had up there was absolutely fantastic. Everything was right. The wind was good, which obviously kept everything at bay. And just to have the conditions we had with the occasional shower was just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it's the last few days have been mental.
When you said, when we got right to the top and you said they're all hinds, the pain that I felt and the level of disappointment, and I thought, what the hell was the point? And I was trying to be positive, thinking, got some great footage. It's all about the experience. And I just thought, what a waste of time.
Well, we'd seen stags on the way up. They were sat there on the hill.
They were just further below us, though, weren't they?
They were literally. So we had all the hinds further out from our sort of where we crawled into and looked over the sort of the lip of that mountain at the end of the day. The stags were obviously tucked further back and we couldn't see them. So yeah, everything that came into view straight away was just hinds. So I can understand my disappointment was just as bad. It's like we've just walked all this way, we've crawled up this side, we've avoided all of this wet stuff. Where the stags. So yeah,
I suppose you were probably more confused than anything.
Well, that was it because virtually all the way up we'd seen stags. You see, looking across. So that I think it's because the slope tailed off slightly. All the stags were sat further down, a bit more of the breeze on them, and obviously the hinds were just grazing away quite happily. So yeah, it was really peculiar that it took that while just to find something, and then we had you set up on that. What you'd hardly really call a stag, that knobbler, but it was something to take off the hill at the end of the day. And then luckily,
Nigel came along.
That's it. And then Nigel just strolled into the picture, but he just did not want to play with. He wanted to keep his arse pointing towards us all the time. If you remember,
about 12 and a half minutes we waited.
Yeah.
So that footage from me crawling to you to basically roughly the shot is about 12 and a half minutes.
Yes.
Well, just wait. Do you know what though? Like for me, obviously, I wasn't nervous, but I was more apprehensive and concerned, mostly because I'd only taken 2 shots with you 4 hours before.
Yep.
But in those 12 odd minutes, I very, very much settled into it. It wasn't a rushed shot in the slightest, was it?
No, I think that gave you everything to allow you just to completely chill out, calm down. It was good weather, everything was right, you were comfortable, the rifle was in a good position, the separate was all comfortable. You'd shot with it already, probably as you say 4 hours beforehand. You'd put 2 shots out, touching each other, happy days into a target. So realistically, your adrenaline rush that you were probably getting as soon as we got there had a chance to settle off. So you were calm. And I think the tiny clip you sent and put up on one of the Instagram feeds literally showed we were communicating all the time, talking about everything. Nothing could see us where we were. So we were quite happy to have that sort of good bit of comms between each other, making sure you were happy. And
it was very reassuring.
Yeah.
Even, because obviously I'm a complete novice or beginner, but even you just saying, I can't remember, you said, come up, come up, come up. And as you were sort of saying, I was visualizing it, I could see it. And it's just like, that's where it's happening, squeeze.
Yeah. And to be honest, I probably pushed you out your comfort zone as well. That shot you took was the best part of 230 yards. We'd only shot a paper target at 100 yards. And I told you it was shooting an inch high at 100 yards, and I needed to aim slightly
with
higher.
No measurements on that scope at all.
No, it is that doctor on my 308 is a traditional. It's just a traditional crosshair with a single dot in the middle. So there's no guidance on that. It's purely you judge by moving the dot slightly further up and down the body. But as we say, you took the shot. We went down to inspect that carcass, and it was absolutely textbook. It was bang on where you needed it to be. Again, I think we'd looked at all the paperwork about best placement of shots and everything, and because we were at sort of a 30-degree angle.
Let me just explain that, because I think it's quite funny. So Peter set up this this target on this little gully. Is that what you'd call it?
I'd call it a
on
gully,
the opposite side of the gully. He comes back, he says, shoot it. So I lay there, I shot it, and he says, shoot it again. I shot it again. He says, you can shoot, let's go. So I'm thinking, all right, that's fine, but that's at a round target that's clearly marked. I'm now thinking, well, where the hell do I shoot on a deer? So I suddenly we got some pictures of deers, didn't we? All different deers in sort of slightly different positions, and I was picking where I would go for, and then it started to make sense. It did start to make sense, but as you said, there's quite a big kill zone, isn't there, on a red?
Obviously, yeah. You've been out quite a lot with Matt down your way, and Rowan, things like that. A much smaller.
But I never see what he sees.
Right,
I don't get to see where he's putting that shot. I get to see him taking the shot, and I get to see where the shot lands, but I never actually sort of see, what he's looking at.
Yeah. So the key obviously is that's why we shot that 4-inch disc, which is the sort of the deer stalking or the DMQ target, the official target. That if you were doing your qualification, that's what you'd use. If you can put the shots in that space, well, that's a 4-inch circle. So size of, I don't know, like a large mug or something like that at the end of the day. But on a red deer, you're looking at a target the size of a dinner plate. So that's sheet of A4. So as long as we got you on the engine room and you were in the right zone, when you took that shot, the bullet's going to have a devastating effect, and that animal is going to drop very quickly. It's going to have a catastrophic bleed out, which is what we want, and therefore it's not going to know what happened, especially when the bullet hits it. 90% of the time, it's a sharp, stabby pain for the deer, and it bleeds out so quickly because it's such a huge animal.
It was down quickly, was
exactly. Your shot, I think it took 3 steps and it dropped, which indicates lack of oxygen to the brain, lack of blood to the brain, lack of oxygen, therefore brain dead, animal down, which is exactly what we're after.
That was exactly what I wanted. Like, I don't say it enough, but I don't really believe or agree with sport shooting and things like that. I always want it to be for meat and things like that, and I want it to drop as fast as I can. And that was my biggest concern is making sure it drops. So
and
when you said, I don't know if you were looking at me or looking forward, but when you said it, it was down, I rolled over and I was just like, thank you.
No, at all times, you probably noticed, but I had binos up and I was just watching that deer. Even though I was talking to you, I needed to make sure that everything was going right, your shot placement, because if things had gone wrong, I was about to grab the rifle off you and follow up. And I think we discussed that on the way up the hill.
Well, it was good. And I know we've sort of said this before, but it was really great that there was no expectation from you for me to take that shot.
No.
And I told you beforehand, if I hadn't felt comfortable, and I can liken it. So when I did my what would it have been called? Not firearms safety, but a little bit of firearms training with James. When he took me from the quads to up on the 2 sticks, what would that be called?
Just a bipod type of stick or something like that.
Yeah. I was all over the place. And I said to him then, I said, Christ, if I was about to shoot a deer like that, I'd be like not comfortable doing this. But when I was there, it all fell into place. And not for a second was I going to say, I'm not comfortable.
I think that was the key. We made sure we'd obviously done the test shoot and set you up on pretty much the same position you were virtually shooting on, to be honest. All right, we were lying on heather. We needed to use my rucksack as a stabilizing platform to put the bipod up. but nothing else changed. Your position, the rifle, the stability, it was absolutely, it was perfect in all ways. So yeah, it was a nice stable place to take a shot from, not off sticks, not wiggling all over the place. You were calm, collect, and you can see that actually in that footage when it does
Well, it's
come up.
interesting because Matt's away at the moment, but because I said to him, right, can you help me moving forward with a little bit of actual training about breathing and what to do? And he's well up for it, which is great. But he said, having watched the clips, I did something, or I did some things that were very normal to a novice shooter, which he will point out to me, but I've no idea what they are yet.
That's fine. Well, as I say, I've only seen the snippets you put up, so once we
Yeah.
get to see the whole thing, it'll be easy to see. My focus for that whole video, though, was literally watching that stag through the binos, just talking to you, probably garbling most of it, but I was
No,
giving
not
you
really.
information.
And the sound is pretty good. Considering how windy it was up there, there's actually some pretty audible sound on there.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah. So
I just need to pull my finger out and actually put it together.
yeah. Well, it'll be good to see it go up. That's the main thing. So, but I think again from that, you've obviously, that is the first stag. That is it. That kind of christens your stalking and going forward. You've seen a proper harvest that you've actually done yourself this time.
Yeah. The next thing I'd like to do is, well, the next thing I want to do is the grallicking. Is it grallicking or grollicking?
Whatever you want to call it, but it's
Um,
mostly known as like a grollock.
Well, I want to grollick myself, not myself, but I want to grollick something myself.
Yeah.
And learn. I mean, I've seen it being done. I've seen it lots of times. I could probably badly get it wrong, but give it a good go. But there's one thing watching, and there's another thing doing. So I want to see. Well, I wanted to do that with some oversight, and then I'd like to have a go at butchering as well.
Well, that's
And
the whole
then,
process.
yeah, and then I'd like to go out again, stalk, grollock, butcher, eat, literally field to fork at that point. I've put the cartridge up on my little special shelf that I have.
Oh, fantastic! That's
So
good.
so yeah, I've kept that, and I've got the other cartridge that's up there is from when Matt took me out on the very first deer stalk. He shot it and stuff, but he
Okay.
passed it to me, and that was still pretty special to go out on your first ever stalk.
It's a special moment, though, isn't it, to actually see it
Yeah.
happen? There's nothing. You can't look at it lightly. At the end of the day, your responsibility is you're taking a life. So realistically, the respect you need to give to that animal at all points is huge. And if we all work to that and everybody understands that, then what we're doing is actually probably better and more ethical than half the meat that's going through like an abattoir or something like that doesn't have that same amount of, I would say, respect in some cases.
Yeah. We should probably say something at this point with regards to Tom. We should probably point out the fact that he is offering guided deer stalks.
Yeah, so Wells, what is it? Wells Sporting offers days out on the hill for taking stags and shooting hinds. He also does roebuck, and there'll be roe stalking in the lowland area of the estate he manages. You've also got on there potentially some walked up pheasant days, and as well as that, walked up grouse. So you could basically come up for a fantastic weekend.
He also welcomes photographers, doesn't he?
He does. So that's another big thing.
If people want to go up there for they don't want to see a deer drop down, but perhaps they want to take some pictures and wildlife and things like that, then he will allow people to do that, won't he?
Yeah, so if anybody out there was interested in being that wildlife photography,
I'll put Tom's contact details in the description below and stuff, and if anyone wants to get in touch, I'll put yours on there, Peter. I'll put a link to your YouTube channel as well, so if you are still watching this, then give Pete a follow.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, thank you very much. But yeah, it's a very interesting set of opportunities that Tom offers. You can either take your camera out and pull the trigger on that and take some fantastic photos of some absolutely stunning wildlife, or if you want to experience the whole thing and get on the hill, you can have a go at that. And it's a really reasonable prices as well compared to some estates and other things like that. So for what you get, and the wealth of knowledge that he's got is stunning, really.
Yeah. Well, I've absolutely fallen in love with Scotland. I think it's such an amazing place. I can see why you moved there.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So I'm going to be coming up. Well, it's just as soon as I can, really, mate. I don't know what's happening with this castle thing that's going on, but I should find out in the next week or so. And then I guess we'll have a bit of a plan as to what that looks like. And then regardless, I'll still come up. You're only a 12-hour drive up the road.
Exactly. It's not far at all. It's easy enough.
Just hit the motorway, keep on going.
But as soon as you're north of the border, it's so much easier. The roads get quieter, everything gets clearer. It's a doddle from there.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how the salmon stuff does as well. It's going to be quite controversial. There's a lot of people out there who have some strong feelings, but I've got to be honest, from what I saw, it looked as good as it possibly could do.
I think you got to go to probably quite a good fishery that maybe do things differently, and
so.
they've got good investment. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a flip side to that as well. There always is. It's the same with deer stalking and everything we've done today. Everything we did on that weekend, there's always a flip side to it. There are other estates that are hammering hard to try and shoot one grouse. There are other places that are pushing hard just to take you up on the hill to shoot the worst deer they can find, but they want to charge you big money for it. And that's the problem.
So you're sending obviously Nigel and what, a couple of grouse breasts, is that right?
You've got you've got a grouse breast. We brought a brace of grouse back, so there's a nice pair of breasts for you. As I say, yeah. So obviously grouse is quite it's a dark coloured meat. It's a bit like duck or something along those lines. So you can work something out to do with cooking that.
That's the next plan. Like, so I will get these films done, and then the final part of the journey will be cooking some up, and I'm going to see if I can get some of the salmon as well. And I bought a bottle of whiskey, so whether I don't know, maybe I'll cook something whiskey related.
Yeah. Or the thing I would say, if you were going to do something with the grouse, which really does work well, because I think you've got a smoker, is actually to smoke it.
Cold or hot?
You can do hot smoked grouse, and it is absolutely stunning. Just thinly sliced, then, and it's one of the nicest.
That can't take long at all.
No, it doesn't, and it pretty much it doesn't take long.
They must be what, like that big?
They're a bit thinner than that, but yeah, it doesn't take long.
Wow.
But it is absolutely to die for. Hot smoked grouse, yeah, really nice.
Hot smoked grouse, okay. Well, maybe if anyone is still watching, they could put some other suggestions, and I'll pick I'll pick my favourite, basically.
Now your stag it's some bits of the venison were butchered fairly quickly because I wanted to get it broken down. But then I think I sent you a photo. We can do something with that. I'm sure you can explain to it. Obviously, I hung the legs for a bit longer to just sort of they got a 2-week hanging. So you'll see a difference. So when you take your steaks, for example, they were butchered up probably in a couple of days, whereas the back legs have hung for a bit longer and the flavour will have matured in them. So there'll be a difference in the meat.
Lovely.
So you should be able to spot the difference there and taste and all the rest of it.
Looking forward to it. I'm buzzing for it. Absolutely buzzing for it. I'm going to try by the end of next week to get this film done. Okay. If not sooner. Well, really, so I'm off to Germany on Thursday, off for the Blaser factory tour, which should be pretty cool. I'd like it done and dusted before then, and then when I come back from that, I can start working on that film.
Absolutely, I was going to say, because
God knows what that'll look like at this stage. just 3 days on the Liechtenstein border with 5 people who I'm yet to meet.
I'm sure you'll have a whale of a time. And now you
Should
can say when they go over there and you say, "I've just had my first stag," and when they ask what rifle you shot it with, you can go, "Oh, a Tikka."
Yeah. What have you been learning on? Of course, a blazer. So what did you shoot with? A Tikka.
Exactly. Just tell them that, but tell them it was.
Mate, it's a lovely rifle. I love the fact that I wasn't annoyed, but prior to obviously everything coming together, and even going out, I was thinking, why won't he just use his bloody thermal? What if we end up walking around for hours for nothing? But we did it the most traditional way we possibly could.
Pretty much, pretty much.
Short of using a bow and arrow.
To be honest though, we drove up to that viewpoint and pretty much picked those deer up on the hillside straight away.
You will love that footage, by the way. When I put the drone up of the car going up and then have it sort of circling round, looks really, really good. The weather at that moment was just bang on.
Oh, it was stunning, really, really.
It's really funny because you can see the flies and stuff in front of the drone camera.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It looks like little black rain droplets, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, they were obviously quite thick up there.
Yeah, so I spoke to Tom. He was out while I was out taking a client out for the stag on Friday. He was out back stalking, out for grouse. And he said to me, "How was it up on the hill with you?" I went, "Well, the midges were pretty bad." He's like, "Where I was in the bottom." So you remember where we were down the bottom of that area trying to find those grouse that the guests had shot. He said the midges were just a thick cloud, but he said we also had a load of crane flies. It's like a black long-legged fly. And he goes, everything was covered. He goes, it was pretty horrendous.
So, oh my God.
We certainly
that's the thing that I learned the most is, well, one, the equipment that in terms of the gear, the boots, the Harkilla suit that I had on, that all stood up, like no issues whatsoever, which was great. But compared with walking round the field down here on relatively nice dry days, you know, just worlds apart from what was up there. You know, that thick, abrasive, you know, the not the lavender, the heather. And the boots held up, the trousers held up. So the only tick that I had was, remember when we sat down for that break and I sort of just found one on my arm. Other than that, I was all good. So
really
lucky, the gear held together well, really well. But
I think
there's no other terrain like it, is there?
No, not at all. No. And I think the only thing that probably would have been better for you, which would have probably given you more stability, you had the lace up, the quick lace, the U-turn boots,
a higher boot. I could have had a higher boot.
And I think if you'd had my like 10-inch lace up boots or even a taller boot like that, just that extra support, as you saw, both Tom and myself, our boots were fully laced up, and it makes such a difference, especially when you're up and
your
down
ankle like that. That's what I need. That's what I need, really. The boots, though, they're perfect for lowland stuff.
Oh, totally, absolutely agree with that. When you're walking around a field or something, and you're just doing slight hills and stuff like that, no problem at all. But as you say, the absolute amount of work that goes through stomping through heather and all the rest of it, it destroys everything.
It's really interesting because before I got those boots, obviously I'm still an amateur anyway, but to me I was sort of saying, well, why would you go for that boot over that boot? Like, why do you need different boots? But now I get it.
Yeah and to be honest,
you wouldn't want those high, I suppose you wouldn't want those high boots for the stuff that I've been doing. It's just a bit too much, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're probably used to it though.
I just wear them pretty much any time I'm out, but I do have a pair of the boa boots, and purely they're like my slip them on in the morning, nip out to take the dog for a walk kind of thing. But if I'm going out stalking, because of the nature of the ground we've got and everything, it's just you just put your lace up boots on because you know you've got ankle support, you know that they're there and they're going to do the job. But I think gaiters were a first time for you as well.
Yes, they were. Yeah. never worn gaiters. My boots obviously didn't have the attachment, but it still worked anyway.
It worked fine. Yeah, you were completely waterproof, which is the most important bit. And considering how much rain came down on that day, well, you saw that because on the day of the grouse, I was full tweed, and it was pretty wet and pretty heavy.
You doubled in weight then, didn't you?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. And then the next day, though, we had exactly the opposite, where you weren't sure what to wear because one minute we're in shirt sleeves.
Well, I was going to say I went up just in my shirt, but at the right time, you said get your jacket on.
Yeah, exactly. Because the next thing,
and actually, that worked out really well because by the time we got to the top, the temperature had dropped, the wind had picked up, and then we were about to crawl through the heather.
No, and that's it. And I got a message from Tom yesterday from the stag I shot on Friday. Well, the client shot on Friday. He sent me a message last night. He was just cleaning the head on it, and he said to me, "I need danger money for this." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Did you have any ticks on you when you got back to the larder?" I'm like, "No, I was clear." He sent me photos, and if you look at the antlers here, every tip of those antlers, it was covered in ticks where they just crawled up the head to try and get to a high place to escape.
Really?
And the face of it was just black with ticks, and it was just amazing that's how many ticks are on the beast. And we were so lucky that animal we shot over there barely had anything on it.
He really didn't, did he?
No, it was pretty clean, to be honest. So just different parts of the hill, and
is there any kind of tick protection? And I'm going to liken it, and it's a really bad example, but you know how with the dogs you put the spotty stuff on the back of their neck. Is there anything like that can actually protect you?
No. So you can get clothing now. There's a couple of companies that make it, and I think, hang on a minute, I'm going to shut two dogs up. Oi, you two, pack it in. There's there are anti-tick clothings that are available, and they basically have woven into the fabric like almost it's a chemical type of thing that basically if the ticks get on it, it kind of burns their feet and they don't want to go any further. There's other sprays you can get. So the military used to use a thing called promethiol, and it's pretty much an insecticide. But if you get it on any of your membranes of your hiking kit or your stalking kit, it burns through the membrane. So you can spray stuff with promethiol, and it is literally, it's probably one of the most nastiest chemicals known to man, but it's a proper insecticide. That's why military clothing, it was literally, you're going into battle, they sprayed the whole suits, everything with this to stop the boys getting any insect bites or anything along those lines.
Blimey.
But there is nothing you can put on your body that repels ticks.
And have you seen there's like an electronic midgie thing? It looks a bit like a torch by the looks of it, and I think it emits some kind of something. Do they work?
Some people say they work really well. Some people say they don't work. There's a tin you get that you set fire to and you strap it to your arm, and it produces smoke that keeps them away. There's all sorts of things out there. At the end of the day, if it's really bad with midges, get yourself a midgie net and stick it over your head.
Yeah. I might when I come up next, I might see if I can get some of those little gadgets and test some of them, see if they actually work or not.
You never know. The next time you come up, it might be snowing, and it might be no.
Mate, I would love that. I think some footage in the snow up over the hills.
Yes,
I think that'd be class. I think maybe if we speak very kindly to our killer, see if we can get some snow camo. That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
It would be absolutely fantastic to just disappear on the hill. But as I say, it's a wild place up there when the snow comes down.
Yeah. Are they slightly easier to see when it's snowing if you've got the white backdrop?
They're going to be about, but 90% of the time they're going to disappear to try and get out of the snow. They'll drop onto lower ground and stuff like that. So deer aren't stupid. They want to get themselves. If you think when they've got all the bog up there and the peat and stuff like that, they'll go and tuck themselves in underneath that.
Well, even when we were there, it felt like they'd found this little mini heat trap just where they could just sit and chill out. I mean, they were obviously there for hours and hours and hours. They were clearly very happy there.
Yeah, they're not. If there's food and everything like that, they don't need to go far. They're not going to roam around. They'll stay there. They'll sleep there. They'll eat what they need, and they'll move on. The only reason they shot off at the end, obviously, we took the shot, and they just disappeared across the hillside.
Yeah,
but they won't go far.
I've got that shot as well, albeit not very good because I've had to zoom in and stuff. But I've got them sort of coming off them, all running off the hill and that. So maybe it'll end with that. I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, that's the kind of Western music, as there's a dust cloud as all the deer just run away. Exactly.
All right, Pete, are we done?
I think we are. We'll leave it there because I'm about to get two dogs go insane in the room anyway. So I think that's a good place to stop. But yeah, hopefully the footage will come out.
And yours. This was my first YouTube live with someone. So it'd be interesting to see sort of if it gets watched. But if anyone does watch it, give it one of those. And subscribe to me and Pete. Pete's got a separate channel, which will be in my description. And I do promise you, the film is coming ASAP. As soon as I got it all transferred to the laptop, which takes me forever, then I can actually start attacking it and getting it done. And I do enjoy the big edits, but it just takes a while to get it right.
I suspect this one's going to be a bit of a mission to get this edit done because there's a lot of footage.
Yeah. Well, luckily, it's all captured in like a story timeline type thing, so it'd be quite nice to just initially just watch it all back to see what happened. Obviously, the build up, there's just a lot of walking, and hopefully we'll be able to see that, the inclines and the declines, and when there's wind and when there isn't, and it'd be really good. So I'll keep you in the loop anyway.
Magic, no worries. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
All right, Pete. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So that was a really, really exciting weekend, and it was a very busy, very tiring weekend. There should be some absolutely fantastic footage. I'm sure some of you have already seen some of the photos I put up from the weekend, and anybody that has followed the Hunter-Gatherer cooking channel will also have seen some of his stories that were coming up. Now, hopefully there will be, as he said, there's going to be 4 short films and then 1 long film of the whole time that he was in Scotland. So in the description, I will try to pack in as much information as possible to be able to go and see the Hunter-Gatherer's YouTube channel, his Instagram feed, my feed. You also need to go and check out Wells Sporting if you're looking to go out, as I said, do some photography, take some pictures of wildlife, or get out on the hill after a stag, or even go walked up grouse at an actual very reasonable, affordable price that anybody can get into. You need to go and send Tom a message and see what the bookings are. However, just because of the nature of it, he is very, very busy, and his bookings are already taking place for the next couple of years. So if you want to get in there and get something, really get on that waiting list, get yourself booked in, but you certainly won't be disappointed. We'll bring this one to a close now. Thank you again for listening. As I say, we've made it to episode 20, so that's an achievement in itself. But we'll be bringing you another podcast very shortly with hopefully another exciting guest. All right, we'll speak to you soon.